Is that live? All right. Well, good evening, everybody. I'm Don Adams with Creighton Manning, and we're here tonight to tell you a little bit more about we call it the PEDALS project, the Pedestrian Downtown Access Linkage System. That's a mouthful. PEDALS is much easier. This has been a project that we've been working with the town on for some time. Just want to introduce the team that I have with me tonight here from Creighton Manning. We have Megan McKenna. She's going to tell you a little bit about the details of the project. She's the project engineer. We have Julia Sovey. She's been the assistant project engineer on this, working on it right from the beginning. And then John Massey, who's a technical senior engineer at Creighton Manning and an associate recently. And I wanted to acknowledge that Adrian and Floria with the town have been working with us, along with Melissa Briggs, and Supervisor Young has been there leading the way. So also want to acknowledge that this is on the New York State DOT roadway. So we've been working closely with Guy Tedesco and Alex Poland with New York State DOT. They represent not only DOT overall, but the local projects unit, which is the type of project this is, a local administered federal aid project. So the agenda, we're going to give you a little more background on this, the objectives, the funding, talk a little bit about the project limits, and Megan will get into the existing conditions, the proposed work, the right-of-way impacts as we see them now, the construction impacts, which we're going to try to minimize, and then the next steps of where we're at now moving forward. Because this is a public information meeting in more of an open house format, our proposed approach with this is if you have questions after we give this presentation and an overview of the project, is to meet us at the boards and tables to talk about the specifics. But I'll leave it up to the town if you want to host some questions at the end.
Yeah, if anybody has questions, it's okay with you.
Yeah, we could accommodate some questions. I want to also point out that there's comment forms up here. If you didn't get one when you came in, we'd love to hear your comments, your feedback. That's what this is about, making it better as we go through it. We already interacted a little bit with Colin Lansing. He had some good comments and questions already, so the project's getting better as we speak. So the background, as I mentioned, this is a local administered federal aid project. So that means that it's the town's project. There's federal funding backing it, and the DOT kind of manages it through that process, make sure that the town follows all those rules. Kind of jumping a little out of sequence here. Those projects are typically 80% federal funding, 20% local match is what they call it. The town pays for everything up front and that gets reimbursed for it through that process. And it's a competitive process. The town had to apply for and compete for the funding for this project. One of the things that made it attractive to DOT and the Capital District Transportation Committee is that it was part of their long-term plan, was to extend the sidewalks from Landau Boulevard, where they end now, to the south, providing better access, pedestrian access to the neighborhoods there. Big picture-wise, part of the town's plan is to take these bike and pedestrian accommodations and eventually connect it past the Round Lake Bypass Connector and connect it to the Zim-Smith Trail. The Zim-Smith Trail connector is just south of the Round Lake Bypass roundabout. And then you'll be able to go from the Zim-Smith Trail all the way into the Luther Forest Tech Park and connect into their trail network. So it makes a really nice connection. This is that next step forward. So really the goal, improve pedestrian and bike accommodations going from the core town down to the Malta Gardens area, where there's a bunch of residential there now, and Woodfield Estates is right across the street from there, so providing that additional connection. I think this is where I turn it over to Megan to tell you a little more about the project, the details.
Thank you. So the project will run along the west side of Route 9 from Taddeo Road up through the roundabout at Stonebreak Road, where, as Don mentioned, it'll connect to that existing path into the Luther Forest Trail and continue north, just north of Landau Boulevard. It'll tie into the existing sidewalk there. As you can see, the existing conditions, there's no existing pedestrian facilities along the west side of US Route 9. there are numerous businesses along the corridor, and we've noticed a well-worn footpath along the road, which indicates there is pedestrian use. We've also noticed during some site visits that there are bikers that are using the shoulder of US Route 9, and it gets pretty quick on that southern part of the corridor, so not the ideal conditions. So this project proposes a 10-foot wide asphalt multi-use path along the west side of the road in the corridor with a 5-foot grass buffer between the edge of the pavement and the edge of the use path, which will provide separation from users of the path and vehicles on the road. We're also proposing a concrete gutter south of the roundabout and new curbing north of the roundabout. Oops, sorry, wrong direction. At the roundabout, we're going to replace the existing sidewalk and put in multi-use path around the roundabout and upgrade the existing crossings to be ADA compliant. We're also going to implement some drainage improvements along the corridor as needed. So as Don mentioned, there are some right-of-way takings. To accommodate the path, we are proposing 9 strip takings along the corridor, none of which are going to be, sorry, too far. None of which are from residential properties. There are going to be minimal utility impacts, to the project. There are going to be 3 utility poles that will need to be relocated. The drainage improvements that I mentioned are going to be the new concrete gutter south of the roundabout and any new drainage structures needed to accommodate filling over the existing ditch with the path. And we'll also be making various manhole and valve adjustments. During construction, access to all properties will remain open at all times, and residents will be notified prior to the start of construction. To build the path, we will need to have temporary lane and shoulder closures, but there are no full closures or detours anticipated. And there will be work restrictions during holidays and special events. We're currently working with DOT right now to obtain design approval, and our next big milestone is detailed design, which is scheduled for winter of this year, and bid opening for the project slated for spring of 2027 and construction starting in summer of 2027. Open the floor up to questions.
I have a question.
Yeah,
How long do you expect the construction to take?
I think it'll wrap up probably about October of 27, so, from,
No.
it's pretty reasonable one-season construction. So if they kick it off August through October, 2 months, 2 or 3 months.
Right. It's exciting.
The right-of-way takes that we're actually illustrating them in red on the plans that are in the front and back. So if you're an adjacent property owner with specific interests in property takes, we can show that there too. Talk about that.
Have you reached out to those property owners?
I think we sent them invitations to this meeting by certified
Yes.
mail,
Yeah.
so that they were invited to it. And then when we get into the actual right-of-way process, which will occur after design approval, is really DOT buying into that the design meets their expectations, the budget is consistent with the budget that's set for it. They'll grant you design approval, you go to detailed design, and that also kicks off the right-of-way acquisition process. So there'll be a formal process of reaching out to those property owners, which DOT is leading, because it's their road, they want to acquire the property for the widening of their road.
I got a couple of questions.
Okay, go ahead.
Is there any restrictions for motorized scooters and bicycles on this path?
I think our restrictions would be consistent to what the town has elsewhere. This is a continuation of their existing facilities, so.
What does the town have now?
I don't believe we have any sort of legislation restricting them. But you're right, this is gonna be a multi-use path, so it's probably something we should start talking about.
I think the Zim has a few speed limits on it.
Yeah.
The Zim Smith does?
Yeah.
25 miles.
Excuse me?
25 miles an hour.
For electric bikes or all bikes in general?
Anybody.
Yeah. I know that there's, different classes of electric bicycles, and certain classes aren't supposed to be on multi-use path. And so we could do some research on that, and that could be a recommendation that goes, when the town's ready to put that on any multi-use path.
Yeah, thanks.
And if I may just parlay that question, if I'm not mistaken, Route 9 speed limit changes from 45 to 55 during this stretch as well too. I think this is an ideal opportunity to address that as well. For those of you who don't know, what happens now where the pedestrian crosswalk is right before that, that's where it changes to 45. From a 35 to a 45, and then when you get on the other side of the roundabout, it becomes 55.
There's
It
been,
makes more sense to
yeah,
keep it 35 to the round, to me, 35 to the roundabout, and then 45 all the way down to Route 67. Again, my personal opinion.
we agree with you. And you know, so, and Adrian has been involved in a lot of the meetings with DOT where we've tried to convince them to change the speed limit. What we're doing is we're changing the characteristics that'll allow them to change the speed limit in the future, but a little bit old school DOT approach is to have a design speed that doesn't necessarily reflect what the goals of the corridor are. And so they've been very open though to allowing us to narrow things up in this section, put in accommodations that change the characteristics that would typically lower the speed. And so they're not letting us change the speed limit yet, but they're letting us do things that we think are gonna change that. We actually talked to them about a bigger project all the way down to the Round Lake Bypass, is the development of Malta goes south towards the Round Lake Bypass. The whole corridor is gonna be the same characteristics. You know, including one of the things we wanted to do was look at a pedestrian crossing near the Woodfield Estates, which would make sense at the south end of this. At this point, DOT asked us not to pursue that any further. And you know, but they had we've kind of pitched to them a long-term goal and a strategy with additional medians going all the way down to the Round Lake Bypass, narrowing of the shoulders, the streetscape for the pedestrian accommodations that would help reduce that. And we even had suggested, you know, like the driver feedback signs that would say, hey, you know, start flashing if you're going over the desired target speed. We pitched rumble strips, so that might be a little bit of conflict with noise and
That
such.
would be more appropriate when the speed limit changes.
Yeah, so we were pushing for all of that, but there are good discussions going on it, and the planning team has been working with us with DOT to do that long term.
Thank you, planning team.
Yeah.
And one last thing, if I may acknowledge Adrian's efforts from this project from the start with the guidance of Floria, and it's a great benefit that the town will have, without a doubt.
Yeah, getting the application in to, you know, get the funding is the key, and the town's been very good at that in the last couple decades, really.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah, good comments.
Sorry.
No, it's all, we're in the same. What was the rationale for using asphalt as opposed to concrete or a different material?
I think,
Just cost?
Pretty standard for a multi-use
yeah, I'd
path
say
to be
typically multi-use paths are
asphalt.
asphalt.
And I would expect it does, it's related to cost, but,
I don't know about anymore because of asphalt, but
yeah.
concrete's probably more
Fair,
too.
fair, yeah, they're all going up, but yeah, typically the multi-use paths are asphalt. So
I know, I work for the DOT, right, I do precast concrete class, so that's all.
yeah, I think it was originally proposed, and the consistency with other multi-use paths around the town was the asphalt, so.
One thing, we got no water and no roots there, so it might be pretty easy to handle.
Helps, yeah. Yeah, as Megan mentioned, one of the biggest challenges is really there's currently a drainage swale for a lot of it, so how are we gonna accommodate that drainage? And, you know, we've been looking at that even in the preliminary design of putting in some catch basins to collect the water, having dry wells so you don't have to take it to a low point, but Malta has great sand. And so, right? Site engineers know that better than anybody. So
Not
yeah,
great for growing grass.
not great for growing grass, no, but it is good for drainage,
Yeah.
and it's usually pretty deep. I mean, we'll have to confirm the characteristics, but
Yeah, no, I had a question too, like who's going to, will the town be maintaining,
Yes,
okay,
Yes.
as far as snow clearing,
Yes.
is that?
yes.
thank you.
Our policy with that generally is, you know, if it's a snowstorm on a Saturday night, it won't get cleared until Monday, but yes, we'll be responsible for making sure it's clear, so.
My question is, I'm a bike rider, I'm a walker,
Yeah.
or so a bike rider, but when I come up here, if after like between like trying to think the picture the other way around, the way I come, Woodfield and Taddeo, if you're doing it there, you're only doing it on one side. What happens if people need to go on the other side? Because now is the time we're letting you guys know, people are gonna play chicken. People are gonna, play Frogger. It's gonna happen. There's no yes, no, maybe so. More likely than not will. So somebody's responsibility for like, hey, we told you so before this is getting done. Because there's a lot of places of business on one side and a lot on the other side. I would hope that there'd be some sort of a walkway on the other side because you're supposed to walk against traffic, not with traffic. So I would hope at least something for the other side so they can get across.
Yeah, no, that's a good comment, and this is the next step in fulfilling the pedestrian and bike accommodations for the town of Malta going south. I think as development looks at moving south on that corridor, there'll be opportunities for the town to request those improvements. Long term, maybe another potential grant application. Right now, the funding we have is pretty much for these limits.
But you can't get any like signage. Well, Route 9 is a dark highway trying to cross that side, but like from one side to the other there, where Woodfield and Taddeo are, because it's like playing Frogger there if you're trying to do it. So, and
Sure.
most people aren't going to be walking one direction.
Yeah, that's a good comment, and that's part of the long-term plan that we pitched to New York State DOT was some sort of crossing in that vicinity. We think that spacing's about right. Right now, because of the speeds, DOT is discouraging people from even trying to cross there. They're encouraging you to use the roundabout where the traffic's slower. We're improving the ADA accommodations and multi-use path around the roundabout. So that's our accommodations right now. Yeah. So, but that's a we
people
got
aren't
comment
always going
forms.
to just do like walk all the way uphill and they only need to walk halfway.
Nothing's gonna stop walking on the sidewalk either. I get what you're coming from. Would it be ideal that we have asphalt or sidewalks or some accommodation on either side of the road? Absolutely. This is step one, as they're saying. This is an iterative process to improve the corridor.
They're telling me in the peanut gallery that, they want the people's questions to actually talk to the microphone or comments, so, because they can't hear your questions. So turn this on.
So walk up to it.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know what else to do. Doesn't reach that far.
We need to state our names. Hi, one other follow-up question.
I think if you just stand there, you're
Okay.
fine.
One
I can hear
follow-up.
you guys fine.
One follow-up question was, I just wanted to make sure I got it right. You said there were 9 right-of-way takings that you're going to be proposed right now. They're all non-residential, but the number's 9, right?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
And as we had mentioned, those right-of-way takes are illustrated in red on the boards. And if you have a specific question about any of them, we could even walk you down through all 9 of them. Pretty narrow takings.
Yeah.
They're really to accommodate, I think the trail itself is mostly in the right-of-way. It's the grading off the back side of that where the trail's gonna sit up a little higher and then just grade down to have a smooth transition into private property.
I would think if they're businesses, they would welcome it.
Yeah, I think so. As long as it's not impacting them, and that's
Right.
that's part of the coordination at this point. If there's a proposed development, we can work with them that they blend together.
With the right-of-way question, is there any, right now, is there any preliminary thoughts on tree removals or anything at this time?
I don't believe we're impacting any trees.
There's a few,
There's a
but
few.
really not many, especially on the Don Green property since that kind of already got cleared.
Mm-hmm.
So that eliminated quite a few of the trees that were planned for removal.
Do you have an approximate figure thus far, or is it still too early?
I do have a count in the design report. I think it's somewhere around 5 to 7.
Wonderful, thank you. Actually, and I guess with that too, how many are over, what is it? What's the number for bat roosting? Is it 3-inch diameter?
4 inches.
I think it's 4.
And those are probably bigger than that if we counted them, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So, yeah, to clarify, those trees that I'm specifying for removal are larger trees. There is clearing and grubbing of brush and stuff, but we have gone through all the ESA process, and we have ESA Section 7 concurrence and all that.
Perfect, thank you very much.
So just to clear, ESA is the Endangered Species Act.
Yes.
And so that's part of that, is evaluating the potential impacts to, in this case,
Northern long-eared bats.
northern long-eared bats
And the tricolor bat.
tricolor bats, which might use the trees are bigger than 4 inches. So you know that.
I used to do that, so.
Good questions.
Yes, actually, my old job.
Any other questions? And like I said, we really encourage you to interact with the team at the boards. You know, that's why we bring them here, so you can get in and look at the details.
I will say too, the comment forms, if you want to take it home, there's the address to send them back in if you want to think about anything you want to add. And you can mail them in. I think we're requesting all comments be mailed by September 4th. So if you want to think on it for a bit.
Now, can anybody, even though they're not at this meeting, can they come here to get a comment form and submit it to you in the appropriate time?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
There's no reason why we can't keep some of them here, so if anybody's at home and wants to have a comment, we'll keep some of them here, I'll leave them by the clerk's office, so, yeah.
For sure. We'll leave them if you need more copies.
Yeah, and
Bring you more.
probably can put a link on the website too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
Get it? Anything else?
Well, I would take a minute to thank the team from Creighton Manning for being here tonight.
You're welcome.
Nice presentation, a lot of hard work. There's been a lot of, literally years of work going into this project, and everybody's excited that it's finally actually gonna move. Not the least of that being Adrian, who's worked very hard on it. So thanks everybody for coming, and stick around and
Yeah,
ask whatever questions you need to.
be great. Thank you.
Thank you.
I was
I don't remember.